Good early afternoon. We're live. I'm Andy Andrews. You've joined us on the Blue Plate Special. We're here in Orange Beach, Alabama on a sunny, cool day at the Wharf. This is the financial district of Orange Beach, Alabama. And I'm wearing a Sand Dollar Lifestyle t-shirt. Just like, remember when you used to watch Let's Make a Deal and they would say, Monty Hall's Wardrobe by Botany 500. Well, it's Mr. Andrews' Wardrobe by Sand Dollar Lifestyles. They're the cornerstone of the Wharf. There's a big, massive store down here with 1 billion t-shirts and shoes and watches and animals and everything. I mean, you need to stop and see them when you come down here. Stop and see us. I mean, come upstairs. We're upstairs. And you would not believe how many people that will tell me, we saw your name up there, but we didn't know we could come up. You didn't know you could come up? Well, I kind of understand that. If you were looking at the escalator statues, that's one thing. If you come and visit us, make sure you have your picture taken with the Marlin statues and the escalator statues. They're very different. The Marlin statues are more avant-garde. I mean, you're not going to look at stainless steel strapped marlin coming out of the ground and go, oh, those are real. I mean, it's a beautiful sculpture, but you're not going to think it's real. But now, the escalator statues, I mean, they are life-size, lifelike. I mean, they're built to scale, but definitely we've got 4 of them. And so have your picture taken with the escalator statues when you come. Dave Huco, good afternoon. Judy Agason, hello. Mark Nicholson, you love these broadcasts. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you being here. Terry Fellowitz, you love the shirt. You know, see, it's got the, what is this? It says openness, courage, humor, just all the different legs. Eva Jean Hodge from Elkin, North Carolina. Thank you very much. And Dana Kilpatrick, hey, you shared? Good. I appreciate that. We got a studio audience. We got people from several states and a couple of foreign countries. People from Illinois. And I pronounced it correctly too, didn't I? Do you hate it when people say Illinois? God, that drives me insane. And my wife, it drives her like triple insane because she's the grammar Nazi, you know. And so I mean, the boys go, yeah, him and me are going, what? Just like has a freak out. I heard a guy on stage introduce Paul Harvey one time, and he said, "And from Chicago, Illinois." You just know Paul Harvey wanted to just go out and just beat him up. Just like go out and just beat him up. And then look at the crowd and go, and that's the rest of the story. Paul Harvey, good day. Minnesota. And even though it's kind of cool to us, pretty warm to you, isn't it? Yeah. I talked to Dan Stone up in Duluth a couple days ago. And I asked him, I said, so is it, because he said they were going sledding. And I said, sledding? And he said, oh yeah. I said, so you still got snow? He said, dude, we're packed. You guys have had 110 inches of snow this year. Oh, more? More than that? That's just, I mean, that's crazy. But at least you have the sense to come down here. Okay. We're glad to have you. Missouri. Where's Missouri? Hey, Missouri. All right. Close to Branson? Okay. All right. I've got friends in Reed Springs, Missouri. And then Indiana. And the Indians from Indiana. Good. All right. And our foreign country today is Slapout, Alabama. I just think that is the funniest name for a town, but it's a real town, and you were both born there. And you know, it's like when you see a yellow car or something, then you start seeing yellow cars everywhere. When Brian and Michelle Gibbons came into our lives, I bet you I've met 10 people from Slapout. There can't be 10 people from Slapout. Oh, that's amazing. We got a great show for you today. Even though I am aggravated, I'll tell you why in just a minute. Lee and Harvard, new Wisdom Harbor people, Nancy Lee, and Arvid and Nancy in Minnesota, recent new Wisdom Harbor members. We're glad you're with us. Chloe McDonald from Vancouver, Washington. And if you haven't joined wisdomharbor.com, come on. What are you waiting for? It's cheap. Sandy Atkins, hey, from El Salvador. Hey. Phyllis Smith. I am, wait, what did she say? She's in her semi in upstate New York, waiting on my company to find a load. It's sad when so many trucks are sitting because of how the economy is. Well, make sure you read a book while you're sitting there. Or watch us. You can watch us. Christy, my sister's here. Billy Roberts Paget, good day. All right, you want to hear why I'm mad? Okay, does everybody know who Ian Fleming is? Ian Fleming is the guy who wrote the James Bond novels, all right? Now, Ian Fleming was a spy in World War II. So, I mean, he knows what he's writing about. And Kevin Perkins, old man's here. So Ian Fleming not only wrote the James Bond novels, there weren't any of these kind of novels before he wrote it. None of these movies existed before Ian Fleming came along, right? I mean, you know, all the spy thrillers and the, Jason Bourne, all of that is after James Bond, which Ian Fleming wrote. Now, the publisher of the James Bond novels has put word out for any sensitives that would like to work on this to please contact them, because James Bond novels will be edited now, and they will feature a disclaimer after a review by sensitivity readers. You guys are laughing. I'm not making this up. You're laughing. I'm mad. The sensitivity edits to the 007 novels come a week after the United Kingdom publisher Puffin has sparked widespread outrage when it announced it'll be making substantial edits to author Roald Dahl's children books. They're making substantial edits to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, and James and the Giant Peach over sensitivity concerns. Now, I happen to know that Roald Dahl, because I read an article about him one time, and it said that he would go toe-to-toe with his publishers over a word. You know, that, and people kind of might think that's kind of silly, but I understand it. I mean, trust me, I've been toe-to-toe with publishers over a sentence and over a half a sentence, and where it's like, no, wait a minute, you're taking that out, and it don't mean the same thing. What are you not getting here? And so he's writing books for children, or he wrote books for children, and these books have maybe 300 words in them, and so one word makes a huge difference. And so I just say that just to say that's how much he cared about what he had written. And now he's dead, and they're changing it. And this thing about Ian Fleming's stuff, here's the disclaimer they're going to use. This book was written at a time when terms and attitudes which might be considered offensive by modern readers were commonplace. A number of updates have been made in this edition, while keeping as close as possible to the original text and the period in which it is set. Okay, but here's the thing. It's not the original text, and I think I'm smart enough to know that these books were written a long time ago. I mean, I don't need you to update something for me. So we all know we all know that racism exists. It has existed, and it used to be worse than it is. I saw a great interview the other night with Morgan Freeman, where he said, he told the interviewer, maybe I shouldn't get into this, I don't know. But he wasn't for a month, because he said, and the interviewer said, are you concerned about racism? He said, of course I'm concerned about racism. And he said, you don't want to do anything about it? He said, yeah, I want to do something about it. And the interviewer said, well, what do you want to do about it? He said, stop talking about it so much. He said, don't, he said, don't describe me as a black man. And the interviewer said, how do you want to be described? And Morgan Freeman said, as a man. He said, your name's Scott. He said, I don't tell my friends, hey, I'm going to go talk to this white man, Scott. He said, you're a man, I'm a man. So one of the things that are changing is Bond is in the presence of suspected criminals from Africa. And he says, these are pretty law-abiding chaps, I should have thought, except when they've drunk too much. And that has now been shortened to, these are pretty law-abiding chaps, I should have thought. Black people can't drink? Another passage that's been completely removed sees Bond witnessing a couple arguing in Harlem in New York City. And Fleming wrote that the man and woman spoke in an accent that was straight Harlem deep south with a lot of New York thrown in. Well, they're in Harlem. Overall, racial descriptors have been significantly reduced. In Dr. No, the sixth Bond novel, the characters whose race was once identifiable as Asians have now become gangsters and ex-drivers. Man, I'm going to tell you something. You know, people, if I bring this up, I hear people say, man, what are we going to do about this? Well, apparently nothing. You know, because we all just shake our heads. And I know that 20 years ago, we were sitting with some friends outside one afternoon, and somebody said, yeah, well, this is why we live, you know, in the South. And my wife said, I think we live in our own little bubble in the South. And then maybe several years later, I heard her make a comment that, yeah, we live in our own little bubble in Alabama. And I heard somebody else say that we live in our own little bubble here in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. And, you know, bubbles are nothing in the world but thin little membranes that maintain their place if the pressure on the inside and the pressure on the outside are equal. But when the pressure on the inside is greater than the pressure on the outside, then the bubble expands. But if the pressure on the outside is greater than the pressure on the inside, the bubble shrinks. And see, there is no end to expanding and welcoming people. There's no end to expanding and welcoming people in. But when a bubble's shrinking, there's an end to it. I'm just saying, there's an end to it. I was talking with Joe Bonsall and Jimmy Yeary the other day. Joe Bonsall is the high tenor from the Oak Ridge Boys, and Jimmy Yeary is the songwriter who wrote "I Drive Your Truck" and "I Called Mama." Both of them, they don't just live in Nashville. I mean, they say Nashville, but specifically they live in Hendersonville. That's where they live, and both of them live in Hendersonville. And I read an article the other day that Sadie, I don't know her last name now, it used to be Sadie Robertson, maybe she still goes by Sadie Robertson, but she's Willie and Corey's daughter, you know, from Duck Dynasty. Willie is a friend of mine, and so I noticed Sadie every time I read something about her or something, and Sadie and somebody else, I can't remember, you would know who they are, but Sadie and this other person were booked for an event at the Hendersonville Library, okay? And they were gonna sign their books and read from their books. And when the library found out, when the people who run the library found out that it was them and that it was a Christian thing, they first tried to cancel it, and then when they couldn't cancel it, they and Sadie and this other person were recording. They were being filmed doing this stuff, and so they started making tons of noise and stomping and screaming and all that, where they couldn't. And then there were people that were in line, and it was a freezing day, and they made the entire line stay outside, you know, and come in one at a time. It hit the news, but I sent that to them, and I said, really? In Hendersonville? So, the bubble's getting smaller. And at some point, you know, every time I think about this, I always think, you know, I'm not trying to rabble rouse or anything like this. I'm just making a point about how a 50-pound tail can wag a 5-pound dog. In Germany, I get tired of hearing people say, well, when Hitler took over, well, that was when Hitler took. Well, Hitler didn't take over. He was elected. And he was elected with 17% of the vote. I mean, they had a model then that you didn't have to have a majority and 20 people could run, and whoever had the most votes won. He won with 17% of the vote. And at the height of Nazi Germany, I mean, at the worst time, and as big as the Nazi Party ever got, this was a country of 71 million people, 71 million educated, industrialized people. And at no time during that did the Nazi Party have more than 8.5 million members. So 8.5 million people caused that much damage to a population of 71 million. And I've read enough about it and studied enough about it to know that 71 million, I mean, they kind of, a lot of them went, well, no, this is not going to happen. Well, it's not going to do this. And their bubble kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until the bubble was gone. And there wasn't no bubble for any of them. So, aren't you glad you tuned in? You laughing now? Okay, here, let's get some laughs and then we'll leave. I think, I was talking to John Irwin not too long ago. John Irwin is he produced the Kurt Warner movie. He's the one that's got the movie out right now, The Jesus Revolution. And I talked to Michael Catt all the time. Michael and I text a lot. And Michael Catt is the producer of, what's the football? Facing the Giants and Fireproof and a bunch of Christian movies. And so we've made a list of 10. I've talked to Michael and I've talked to John and I've suggested some things, But so far they don't seem to take any of my suggestions. But I've got my 10 best suggestions. And I think these are Christian movies that need to be made. Okay? Number 1. This is just a little description of it. A King James only pastor is granted an array of superpowers after praying the sinner's prayer for the 490th time. And he uses his newfound gifts to soar around the earth, frying atheists with his heat vision. And this movie stars Kirk Cameron. All right, my second idea. In a post-apocalyptic world, teens from each of several districts are sent to fight in a Bible trivia contest to the death. Remember sword drills? Attention. Salute. John 3:16. Pledge. You remember those? Remember those in RAs and GAs? All right, here's my number 3 movie idea. Down on his luck, a seminary professor is forced to cook and sell casseroles to a hot dish cartel on the side to provide for his family. And this stars Kirk Cameron. So far, neither Michael or John saw any validity in these. Now, I think this one is very good. Number 4. A ragtag church softball team turns its faltering season around after a 3-minute power metal montage in the contemporary service, and then they beat the Russian national softball team for the Olympic gold medal. That's a good one there. Okay. Number 5. On a remote research base in Antarctica, a parasitic organism infests various members of the scientific team, causing them to do very unchristian-like things, like read all the Game of Thrones novels and smoke cigars. Kirk Cameron stars in this one. All right, ready? Number 6. Jesus of Nazareth and his disciples roamed the countryside of ancient Israel, preaching the gospel by day and slaying vampires by night. Kirk Cameron stars. Michael's going to do that one. Yeah. Vampire Jesus. Okay. Number 7. A NASA astronaut is stranded on Mars. Every Christian on Earth goes on NASA's Facebook page and says, praying, but no one actually prays for the astronaut or sends help, and he dies after running out of Martian-grown potatoes. Praying. Okay, number 8. Ready, number 8? Now this was a complicated one. And this one, I think, could be done very well by John Irwin. It could be done very well by the Irwin brothers or by Michael Catt. Number 8. A boy goes into a coma. He does not have a vision of heaven, and he gets better. That's it. All right. Number 9. Liam Neeson's daughter is kidnapped by a group of independent fundamental Baptists. Neeson is getting too old for this kind of thing and leaves her to her fate of wearing denim skirts and white tennis shoes for the rest of her life. In the sequel, they find her living in Slapout, Alabama. And now, number 10. In a thrilling new Left Behind reboot, Jesus raptures the church, but is so annoyed at all the bickering among the different denominations that he immediately raptures everybody back down to earth for another couple of thousand years of going again. There we go. That's my top 10. That's my top 10 ideas. And so far, none of the Christian producers have jumped on this. But I can dream. So, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Yes, Ron Reams. That last one does star Kirk Cameron. Yes. Yes, it does. Everything stars Kirk Cameron. Or Hercules. Did you see we had Hercules on our podcast recently? We did. Sure did. You know, I was texting with Dallas Jenkins a couple of weeks ago. Dallas is the one producing The Chosen, and I didn't say this to him, but I had this kind of, I don't know, this kind of a weird thought. You know, I'm sometimes recognized when I go out, right? I mean, to me, it's been a long climb to the middle for me. And I'm not some star or anything like that, but sometimes people, so I kind of know what that feels like. And so you look at some people that somebody just goes, oh my God, like Willie Robertson. Going anywhere with Willie Robertson is a hassle, okay? I mean, because he's got the beard, he wears the bandana, and people are like, blah, he's got dynasty. And the drunker they are, the crazier they are on Willie, okay? And he's just like, oh my gosh. And so you can imagine, but you can imagine going out as Willie, or you can imagine, like, if you were Bob Denver and you had starred on Gilligan's Island, just to, walk into a grocery store and people go, there's Gilligan, right? Or Jerry Seinfeld, or somebody like that. Jerry Seinfeld. But can you imagine being the guy in The Chosen who plays Jesus? I can't imagine just walking around there, because, I mean, he's done this for 3 seasons now. And he sure looks like Jesus, And, I mean, if you see that in the grocery store, it's like, there's Jesus. Hey, grab me my phone in there. I'm gonna tell you a story, and then we'll go. We'll go. I promise we'll go. Everybody has their own thoughts about what Jesus looked like, okay? But several years ago, I had what I call a roost built beside my house, and where you just walk up the steps. You've been there, Brian, and it's just a little platform. It's like another story, and I've got 2 rocking chairs up there, and there's bamboo around it, and so it's a cool place to be by yourself or be with a friend and just sit up there and talk. And so the guys who built the roost were brothers. They're from Robertsdale. Have I ever told you this? And so they built the roost. They're from Robertsdale, and their granddaddy was a fundamentalist preacher. All right. Now these guys, they were great. They did a great job. They were great. The boys were probably, I don't know, 10 and 12 when this was going on, and so they told me, one of them is named BJ, and so they told me one night, they said, hey, Daddy, BJ has like really long hair. I said, he does? They said, yeah, I mean, it's really long. And he keeps it under his hat. I said, oh, okay. Then Adam says to me, he said, why do you think he keeps it under his hat, Dad? I said, I don't know. He's working. He might think that somebody wouldn't like his hair, and he's just kind of probably keeping it out of sight, I guess. So a few days later, and I really did figure that's probably what it was, but I liked both of them. I thought they were great. And so a few days later, they're through with it, and the boys and I walk out, you know, Brian, from underneath the house there, which is kind of behind them, and we're like from here to the window there, and we see BJ standing on the edge of the lower level, and he has his hat off, and his hair is hanging down, and he leans over and does this, and then slings it up and over, and does it and puts it down under his hat, and then he turns around and we're standing there. And I said, hey, buddy. He goes, hey, Mr. Andy. And he's probably like 24, 25. He said, hey, Mr. Andy. I said, man, you guys have done a great job with this. I really appreciate what you've done. You've been here on time. You've done it. You've just done a great job. I really appreciate it. He said, well, thank you. Thank you. I said, hey, you do me a favor? Do me a favor, just for the boys and me, right here. Come right over here. So we get over next to these bushes, right? I said, take your hat off. He said, really? I said, yeah, take your hat off. Let your hair hang down, hang down. So he takes it off, and his hair falls down. I said, take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. He said, what? I said, just take your T-shirt off. Just everything's fine. Just take your T-shirt off. So he takes the shirt off. I say, all right, now take that necklace off. Just take it off, BJ. Just here, lay it on your shirt. Okay, take your bracelets and your rings off. Really? I said, yeah, just take your bracelets and your rings off. He lays them down. I said, now come stand right over here. Stand right here by this bush. So he stands there. I said, turn sideways just a little bit. And I had my phone. So turn sideways just a little bit. And I said, now I'm going to get under you. I'm going to get like this. And what I want you to do is I want you to look up and do your hands like this. And so he did, and I took the picture. With this, Matt, can you zoom in on it, or how can we do this picture?
I'll try. I can't zoom in super far, but you can show it. I'll go.
Okay. Is that Jesus or what?
Yeah, that's close as I get.
Huh? I mean, that's Jesus, ain't it? I sent that to a bunch of my friends, and I said, this guy's been hanging around my house for a week. He says he's a carpenter. I really want to hire him. I want to hire him sometime to go out to the beach when the Gulf is just slick. And I want him to stand right on the edge and do like this. And I'll get a picture of him, you know, kind of sideways, and him doing like that. And with the beach just slick. And I'm going to make a blow up of it. And I will send that around, and I'll tell people, I don't know who this is, but 5 minutes ago there were 6-foot waves here. So, anyway, I mean, good grief. Looks like Jesus. All right. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you on Thursday. And watch your bubble. Bye-bye.